feel like a camp counselor. I'm like, all right, guys. Hey, hi, hello, how are you? I'm Pia. Today we're going to be talking about all the books I've read for the first half of the year, otherwise known as the mid-year book freakout tag. I've done this video so many times. I just like copy and paste like the questions I have in the notes app of my phone, and I just like changed the year. Like imagine, like this tag could have changed and I've just been doing it wrong. Like people could be updating this tag. Like I don't even, what's a tag? Long story short, I'm doing the same video I've done for the past few years now. And I like it. It's a cute little check-in. We can check into what I've been reading, which like I've read 80 something books this year. I'm on track, I think, to complete my goal, but like get this girl a life, you know what I mean? Like get her something to do besides read. No, so I've read a lot. I haven't read a lot of like standouts and favorites, so it was really interesting to go through these, and I'm excited to chat with you about them as well. So let's get into the questions, the form, the structure, the meat, the body of this video. So we start off strong with talking about my favorite book that I've read this year, which I had a hard time narrowing down. I picked 3 because indecision is my middle name. So the first one I think is obvious, like Beartown by Frederick Bachman. Frederick Bachman's gonna come up a lot here and I don't want to hear anything about it, okay? I have been reading a lot of Frederick Bachman. This one is just a standout to me. Like, I don't know, something about the story is really special, something about the town, the cast of characters, everything about this book just like smacked me in the face and was like, hey, hello, like you're in love with me? And I was like, yeah, I really am. I believe this town is real. Like you can't convince me otherwise. And I'm just so attached to these people, these characters. See, I call them people, like love them. And I just feel for every single one of these characters. And I just don't know how Frederick Bachman freaking does it because it's such a vast cast of characters. And I genuinely feel like I understand and know all of them, which is crazy. And it's a really hard book to read. Had a hard time reading it, but had an amazing, like profound time reading it as well. Another like book that I feel like changed my scope for what I read is Disorientation. I read Disorientation and I was wowed. I was amazed. I was like, you can say that in a book without like actually saying it? Yes, Pia, it's called satire. I'm learning new things every day. This is a satire book and it is crazy. It blew my mind. I was like, I can't believe it. Like another book where I'm like, this shit could happen. Like I'm telling you right now, like if this came out as like a news story in, ooh, this is gonna, in the New York Times, I would be like, shit, like you're right. like this is happening in the world and it's crazy. It also like reaffirmed this belief that I have in something that I really enjoy reading about, which is translation. I really find it fascinating. I just find it so like important and like so complex. Just the very art of translation. I could talk about it for days and apparently not very well articulate it, but nonetheless, I find it interesting. This was a crazy book and such a great one, and yeah, I love that one a lot. Lastly, I had to put what I consider to be like, can I say this? Like, can I make this like grandiose of a statement? Is it my favorite horror of all time? I don't know. We Spread. I read this at the beginning of the year, so sometimes I forget I read it this year, but yes, I did. I read it in January of 2023 because it was on last year's, see, this is why I get confused. It was on last year's Goodreads Choice Awards list. I read it for a video and it blew my mind. I was like, I love literary fiction, and literary horror was not something I ever considered to be a possibility, and this book was just like, it just like opened my mind to a whole like subgenre, I guess, of horror that I haven't ever explored before and I think could possibly be my thing in horror, although I have a lot of things in horror and I'm so bad at finding good horror or horror that I like, but I just need to read it more, to be honest. But that is neither here nor there because this book is amazing. It's like this slow burn, slow build of this like almost descent into madness kind of vibe, and you really are questioning everything the more you read it. And what I love personally about this type of horror is like the scariest things are these like real life scary things of like aging and memory and dying in like the natural sense, and those to me are like my biggest fears and my like things that I find scary rather than like clowns and dolls. Actually, I find dolls kind of scary, but anyway, so I love horror like that, and it really again just like showed me a whole new genre that I really love. So next is not actually a question, but I added it because I was like, why are we not talking about the worst book I read this year? Because I want to talk about it. I don't usually make a lot of negative videos, but guys, I want to talk some shit right now, okay? I want to ask this question to no one and everyone listening in the video. Who told me to read ACOTAR? Like, who in their right mind said, you might like that? I don't know. I don't know why I do things to myself. I'm like, I put myself through hell for content, you know? Like, why do I do that? And then I canceled the video. So like, what did I get out of this reading experience? Absolutely nothing. So I will say it right here, right now. This is not an Agatar stan channel. It's bad. It's bad. It's gross, so uncomfy, it's so badly written. I don't even know. Like, why? What are all the girlies saying? I don't get it. Let me get off my soapbox. Next up is best sequel. Now this is like a stupid question, I think, because like, God forbid I read a fantasy book. God forbid I read a fantasy series. The only sequel I've actually read this year is Us Against You, which is the sequel to Beartown, and as we already know, Beartown was one of my favorite books of the year, so Us Against You was incredible. I mean, 5 stars, like easily the best sequel I've read, if I've only read one. 1, I don't want the series to end. 2, I don't know how this is a series and like why it works, because I don't find contemporaries to be like able to be series, citing the Crazy Rich Asians series that I've been reading for too long, trying to finish for too long, I should say, because I have not been actively reading that. It's been sitting on my shelf for too long. It's not a roasting Pia challenge. Okay, I don't find like contemporaries can often be series, but Frederick Backman somehow does it, and like, I'm just thinking about the things that happened in that book, and I am devastated. Next up is a new release that you haven't read yet. So there's 2 that kind of stand out to me. The first is Yellowface by R.F. Guang. This one I know I'm gonna love. I know I'm gonna love. And you know what? I knew I was gonna love it so much that I was like, I'm not gonna pre-order it because I want a fancy special edition, because I'm not a fancy special edition person, because I don't buy a lot of books. I use my library a lot. A few places were doing special editions of this book, and I really liked the Fairy Loot edition. And I was like, okay, so I like set my timer, set my alarm. I was so excited about it, and then they all sold out, and I didn't get it. And now I have to go buy a hard copy. Yes, now I have to go buy like a normal ugly. I mean, they're not ugly, but like this one was gonna be special, and now I have to buy an unspecial edition, which makes me sad. But I will read this. I'm actually really fucking excited to read this because I read Babel this year, and again, like, it was one of those books that kind of just like opened my mind. It had all the synapses firing. Like, it was really good. I only didn't include it on the best books because I gave it 4.5 stars, and I was like, it's not there yet. R.F. Kuang is like a one to watch author for me, so I am dying to read this book. I just need to get my hands on a physical copy because I know I'm gonna be annotating the shit out of it. So, and then the other book is The Pink Flamingo that has been flying around on YouTube, especially, or mostly I guess, in the romance community, and that is The Happy Place. Or is it just Happy Place? Fuck. I think it's I think it's The Happy Place by Emily Henry. It's the new Emily Henry. Why it came out in hardcover is the reason why I'm not buying it. I hate that this is a hardcover book. Like, Emily Henry, get that cash money dough, but like, I'm really peeved about it. I will eventually get this book, but I have been pretty apprehensive going into it. I've heard mostly good things, but some like not good things. And either way, I think it's just such a like built up book. Like, I think pretty generally Emily Henry is like a beloved author in the romance community. She has really solidified her place. Like, people have enjoyed 2, if not 3 out of the 3 of her romance books that have come out, because no one likes my favorite book. And I think this new one coming out like had that added pressure. So I haven't read it yet, but I will eventually. I might read it for my readathon. I'm hosting a readathon. It's called Summerland. It's happening from June 26th to July 2nd, and I hope to see you reading along with me. Next up is most anticipated releases for the second half of the year. I feel like a lot of my most anticipated releases already came out, but I do have a whole video on my most anticipated releases for the whole year of 2023, and then I also have a Goodreads shelf. If you friend me or follow me on Goodreads, I have a whole shelf of, I think, 25, 30 books on there that are my most anticipated. So the ones that have not come out yet. First one that comes to mind is Friends Don't Fall in Love by Erin Han. This is her second adult romance, and I actually have an arc of it, so I have started it because I got it early. This is kind of a companion to her first adult romance, which was Built to Last, and it follows like the friend of the main character. And it's her romance, and it's really great so far. Music vibes, country music, star vibes. And it already mentioned, guys, the Erin Han multiverse is quaking. Like, I can't. It already mentioned one of the characters from her first book, which I loved. It's called You'd Be Mine. I'm already really liking it, but it hasn't come out yet. I think it comes out in the fall. At the end of August, we have The Brothers Hawthorne, which I'm very excited about, and then we also have the new Beth O'Leary, The Wake Up Call, which I'm like kind of excited about, kind of nervous about because I didn't like the no-show. Those are just a couple ones. Also like Heartstopper and stuff. You can watch the video and find out. So next up, we have biggest disappointment of the year. Now let's again talk about another video I almost canceled, and it canceled me. Like, it canceled me right back. I tried to read all the Bridgerton books, and I was wrong for that. Again, no one forced me to do this. It was by my own accord, by my own harpsichord, by, I don't know. I tried my best. I really, I didn't know like what could be worse. Like I didn't know, like it just kept getting worse, and I didn't know that that could happen. I ended up reading about 5 of them. It's a lot, like it's a lot. We know I don't read series, so yeah, I don't know what Juliet Quinn was on those ones, so that one was a disappointment. Especially since I wanted those pretty editions, and then I'm really glad I did not spend that money. Next up is biggest surprise. Now, I think one of the biggest surprises I have is The Slow Regard of Silent Things. I was so surprised by this book. It's in the like Name of the Wind universe, but it's like 2.5 technically, I think. Is following a different character. It has a completely different style than the Name of the Wind books. By Patrick Rothfuss. It's by Patrick Rothfuss. Didn't say that. I am a booktuber. Anyways, I read this and I read half of it and I was like, hold on, don't know what I just read. And then I had to go back. I backtracked. I started it over again and I read it all the way through and I was like, not sure about that. Like, not sure. And then I decided to start it again and go all the way through. And then I said, actually, that's the best book I've ever read in my entire life. And I don't know what I was thinking. So this was such a surprise to me because I read it 2.5 times, and in those 2.5 times I changed my rating from being like, I don't think this was English and like words, to like, this is the most jaw-dropping, stunning piece of art that I have ever consumed. And I just feel like that was really crazy to happen. And then another book that surprised me that I read this year is Tender Buttons. This I read for a class, and crazy, I read a book for a class. 1, that's shocking. 2, what's shocking about that is I actually enjoyed it. This is by Gertrude Stein. Now, Gertrude Stein is a slay. She is an absolute queen and icon. That's besides the point. This isn't about her, but it could be. Like, if you read into it, like, it's kind of about her, and it's crazy. I wrote a paper on this. I read it a few times, not like marked on Goodreads, but I just like had to go through it so many times to write my paper that the more I read, the more I saw, and like, gosh darn it, like, poetry sometimes does it. And I never, well, never say never, because I liked poetry this one time, but I very frequently do not like poetry because I don't like the kind of excavation that you have to go into it with, and I like just like saying the words and being like, the sky is blue, the sky is blue, fuck yeah, okay. With Gertrude Stein, she really like coaxes you into like finding the meaning and finding whatever it is, what is meaning. Like, it is so interesting and kind of like the weirdest, wackiest form of poetry I've ever read, so that one really surprised me. Then we have new favorite author, oh my god, couple here, Frederick Bachman. I did read 2 Frederick Bachman last year, and so far I read 3 of his books this year, so I'm like really trying to read all of them this year. This wasn't the year I discovered him, but it is the year I've kind of latched onto him. I'm like that like annoying child like holding onto his ankles, you know? I'm like, give me another book, please, thank you. Another author I've read a couple books from that I really enjoyed this year, Emma Straub. I gave both the books I've read from her 5 stars this year, and she has written some really cool things, and I've really enjoyed what I've read from her so far. I'm excited to read more. And then I also put R.F. Kuang on this list because even though I've read only one of her books, I really, really want to delve more into her backlist and, like I said, Yellowface. And I just really think I'm going to like her. She's one to watch, maybe. My experience reading Babel was like, this is an author. Like, that's how you write a book. Then we have newest fictional crush. I gotta think. Okay, I just read Meet Me at the Lake, and I know a lot of people didn't like this book. I'm not talking about the book. I'm talking about the love interest in the book named Will Baxter. And gosh darn it, that's a man. I'm just more of like a person that roots for a relationship rather than like a singular. And then I also really like in the 7% of Roe Devereaux, Miller, her like childhood best friend to relationship. I love him. He's great. I'm not gonna explain that because I'm an adult. Favorite characters? Oh man. So Planning Perfect. This is a cute little YA contemporary that I read, and I have no shame about reading it because this was perfect, as the title would suggest. And Felicity, the main character in this, is so fucking me. Like, she is me. Like, her binders, oh man, that was so me. I just loved her. She was like so like me stressing out over everything, and I really loved her, and she got her happy ending. So you know what? There's hope. There's still hope, guys. And then another one of my favorite characters on a complete left turn of this one is another one that begins with F, so a little bit adjacent. Franny from Franny and Zoe, because I read Franny and Zoe this year. Again, I forgot that I read that this year, because January to me is like, that's December. That's like that's still 2022. But Anyways, I read Franny and Zoe, and Franny just going through that crisis, you know, I really felt her there. I was like, girl, same, you know? It was like even more than an identity crisis. It was like an existential crisis, if you will. So I loved that. I felt that. I lived that. I've been there, you know? So I love Franny. Next up is a book that made you cry. I think only one book has made me cry, or at least like it made me cry enough that I remembered it. Sometimes I shed a stray tear here or there, but Beartown definitely got me. I remember pausing the audiobook and having to be like, hold on, like give me a minute to like collect myself. That's definitely one really gets you. And then a book that made you happy. Literally any YA contemporary that I read that I was like gave 5 stars, which fortunately was a few this year. So we have Planning Perfect, She Drives Me Crazy, 7% of Roe Devereaux, and I even threw in Better Together because I love a wacky time. I've just found some really cool YA contemporaries that I've really been liking and that I've been inspired by and that have really been doing cool things for the genre. And yeah. Next up is the most beautiful book you've gotten? Purchased? I don't purchase a lot of books, but I did recently have a pre-order come in. I got this edition of Once More with Feeling, and I really like it. It looked like way ugly online, like not gonna lie. But there was a sale. Barnes & Noble had a pre-order sale, so I pre-ordered it, and it kind of looked like a carnival fucking like threw up or something on this, on the website, but I think it looks actually kind of cute in person. You could lie to me and tell me it looks cute, right? I think it's cute, so that's my favorite cover that I've got. Next up, the last question is, what do you still need to read? Well now, I don't know if I told you this, but I've read 80 something books this year. And my goal is 200. Now, some part of the math ain't mathin'. So I have a lot to read. A couple like highlights I want to get to. I want to get to Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. I said I was going to read these while I was having a crisis about trying to write a book, and of course I didn't get to it. So I am putting that off. I am going to make a video on them when I read them, and hopefully they will make me happy and make me sad and make me a different person. I'm like hoping to have like an actual like transcendent experience while reading them, so pretty low expectations. I also want to finish The Way of Kings. I've been slowly but surely making my way through this, and it is a surprisingly easy read for me. I don't know why, but I really, really love it, and I would like to say that I have finished this book by the end of this year, and I can, you know, check that off my bucket list or whatever. So those are all the questions for the mid-year book freakout tag. I hardly ever see people do tags, so I hope this video gets clicked on. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know what the worst book you've read this year so far was. Let's rag on some books down below. And if it was one of my favorite books, all the better. Yeah, and with that being said, make sure to like and subscribe to all the things, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.